All right. Welcome back to the Consistency Corner podcast, and welcome back as well to my guest today, Lindsay Dollinger, who has been on the show previously. And it's always fun to have a guest come back so we can just catch up, chat about what's going on in your business, what's going on in your life. And I know I like to listen to podcast episodes that are also kind of conversations like that between friends. So y'all get to sit in today while Lindsay and I catch up and talk
Yeah.
about also the power of collaboration, as she is in the midst of planning for a big collaboration project this year. And so I'd love to even kind of get into your idea and how that came about. And as we're recording this, it hasn't happened yet, but it will very soon. So she's in
Yeah.
the early stages, and so we'll talk about that a little bit. So Lindsay, welcome back. For those who are new to the podcast, tell us a little bit about your business journey and what you do and how you support your clients.
Yay. Thanks so much, Ruthie. I'm so excited to chat today. I always love these conversations too, because you never know where they'll go. So it's like, let's go. Let's do this. Let's tell everyone the things. So, yeah, as you said, my name is Lindsay Dollinger. I live in Ohio. I am a business coach for women growing their online businesses. And I specifically help women with strategy, systems, and productivity, because I am still working my full time job as well. So I am a high school Spanish teacher, so I'm still in the classroom, but my business income has easily replaced that. And so we're almost to the point where I can comfortably leave. I'm not the type of person who is going to. I'm a very safe person. I really look up to the people who are like, I just made the jump and I did it. And unfortunately, I'm just not wired that way. So we will see what happens with that. I also love hosting retreats. And yeah, so my business started, for those people who don't know me, 2016, I started in network marketing. Realized pretty quickly that I loved the business sides of network marketing, but not so much like the product or a specific company, because I did hop around companies a little bit. So I grew to the top in a company, and then I was getting all these messages. How are you doing this? I never see you acting salesy and spammy. What's going on? I want to learn from you. And so just very naturally started a podcast, which at the time was for network marketers. Now it has pivoted. Built a personal brand online as well that has very naturally pivoted with whatever it was that I, want to be doing in my business. So I do think branding is super important. And yeah, so that's where we are now. I'm a podcaster, business coach. I have a mastermind that I launched since we talked last time. That's really where I'm pouring a lot of my energy. And then also have created a business course that at the time of this, when it goes out, will have just launched. And those are my big two areas of focus to bring in income in my business this year. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's
And,
kind of the quick.
I love that you shared that you've grown your revenue and your income to replace your teaching salary,
Yeah.
but you're like, I'm not ready yet. And I
Yep.
actually think that it's really important for business owners to understand their own personal why. And if
Mm,
you're like, I love the classroom, I love what I'm doing, I'm not ready to leave just yet.
yeah.
I'm curious, when your day is really busy or you've got a mile long to-do list for the business, like what's your why right now that's keeping you going?
In my business or in
Mhm.
teaching my
In your
business?
business.
Oh gosh. I really, working with my clients really just like lights me up. And that's how I've known the past few years. I actually was at the place about a year ago where I was like, I need to make a decision. Like, I'm going all in and I'm making this a big thing, or I need to stop pouring so much of my time into this, because I can't keep running, at both ends at this pace. And
Mhm.
I was like, well, I'm giving myself, and I kind of gave myself a little bit of an ultimatum, like a little bit of a deadline. And I'm like, if I haven't launched a product that I really love and feel very much behind, and it's not scalable, and I gave myself these parameters, then I'm quitting. I'm done. And so knowing that kind of was like the fuel to my fire, because
Mhm.
it's really easy when you do have a full-time job. Like, you can take things a little slower, and there's really no like rush, to do anything. And so I'm a very competitive person, and I like to, whether it's compete with others or compete with myself. In this time, it was competing with myself. And I set out, and that's when I launched my mastermind. And I was like, okay, well, I brought in more money in one day than I do in 5 months teaching. So this is legit. People do actually want what I have. And
Mhm.
I get so lit up by working with my clients that it fulfills me. It's very intrinsically motivated, but also financially, it's not bad either because I love to travel. I have lived my entire adult life on a teacher salary, which, if anyone's familiar with that, is not a ton. And
Or enough. Let's be clear
right,
about
or
that.
enough to be clear. Yeah, I mean, I really don't know. I look around the room at my colleagues at school, and especially those who are not married. I'm like, how are you living right now? Like, how is this happening? Because I have essentially two incomes. I'm not
Mhm.
married, so I am the only income that I have coming in, and I just don't understand. And my one colleague, he always jokes around like his wife's a lawyer, and so like she's his like sugar mama, and I'm like, I don't have that. So that's also a very big motivator for me, because it's not like I live an extravagant lifestyle, but I like a nice lifestyle, and I like to be able to travel. I really love traveling. I love going to Disney, and that stuff costs money. So it's like I got to get it somehow. And so it's kind of, both of those ways. I really have found something I really love doing that really lights me up, because I would not be doing this if it drained me. And
Mhm.
that is where I was a few years ago in teaching, even before I found personal development. It was just draining me. And I knew that something had to change. I had to find something to allow myself to get creative and pour myself into again. And so my business has actually helped me a lot in the classroom too.
Mhm. Yeah, oh, I can imagine. And I love to ask that question because I think over time, as a business owner, our whys can change
Oh,
and they
yeah.
can evolve. And I think it's
Hmm.
important to even reevaluate and revisit those things. And as we're recording this, it's like towards the end of the year, so it's definitely the season of reflection. But if that's
Hmm.
something that you haven't done in a while, like I think that's
Yeah.
important to sit down and evaluate your why, because as someone who has stepped into a full-time business owner role and did leave corporate, there are days that of course I can be like, I could go make more money at a job. Like, should I just go get a
Yep.
job? Like, this is
Hmm.
hard. But then it goes back to, okay, well, what is the why? Why are you doing this? Well, you're doing
Yep.
this because you wanted time freedom and you wanted to give time freedom to other women by employing them.
Yep.
So, like,
Yeah.
remembering that why when things
Hmm.
get tough or challenging is so important.
Yeah. And also, going back to your why really helps me with what I have time to say yes to and what I have time to say no to. And
Hmm.
I have always been a yes girl. And we actually, before we started recording, we're talking about different collaborations that we have committed to in the upcoming year. And this past fall, definitely overcommitted. And I kind of knew it going in, but I'm like, the visibility will be good and it'll be fine. And all I have to do is send an email and make a social post and what it is. But that's not all it is, right? It's so much energy also that you don't really think about. So my September was insane, totally overcommitted. So when I now moving forward, I need to remind myself, like, okay, is this serving one of these two whys directly? And if not, it's okay to say no to it. There will be other opportunities that come up. So I think that's an important
Yeah.
reminder too.
And you know what? I think not only having those moments where you intentionally reflect on those types of things, but then like making yourself some notes on your calendar for next year. Like
Yeah.
I was literally just having a conversation with my mentor today about Black Friday. And I was like, you know what? I got FOMO and I decided to do a pre Black Friday promo. And then I decided to do a Cyber Monday promo.
Hmm.
And neither one of them did really well.
Yep.
So I need to put a note on my calendar for next November 1st. You are not doing Cyber Monday, Black Friday. It's
Yes.
not
Yes.
worth it. Like, and maybe
Hmm.
for some businesses it is, and for some businesses it absolutely is. And maybe if I had done it differently, it would have been worth it, but it just
Right.
wasn't. But I can see how a year from now, I'm not going to remember that. I'm just going to look
Mm.
around at what everybody else is doing and be
Yep.
like, I should do this.
Yeah, I'm totally the same way with Black Friday, Cyber Monday. I even said going in, it was like, I don't think I'm going to do it. And then the same thing. I was like, well, everyone else is doing it. I probably should do it too. And
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, well, that was kind of a waste of energy. Not that I put a ton into it, but it's still, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, same. And it's like I'm like you, I didn't put a ton into it, but then I'm like, well, then no wonder it didn't do well because you didn't
right.
put a ton into it. So
Yep, yep.
it's like, why
Exactly,
did you
exactly.
even put that little bit of effort if you weren't going to go all in?
All
And I think
in. Hmm.
that sounds really similar to kind of the crossroads that you were at with your business, that you were like, if I'm not really willing to go all in,
Yeah,
what am I even doing? And
right.
that is a mindset thing way
Hmm.
more than strategy. And so
Yeah.
as somebody who does business coaching and you teach your clients strategy, but I know you spend a lot of time in personal development and the mindset space as well.
Yeah.
How do you kind of check yourself in terms of
Mhm.
like, is this a mindset issue or is this a strategy issue?
Ooh, that's such a good question because I go back to when I decided to stop building my network marketing business. And for me, I don't like to do anything too abruptly. So like that's why I gave myself like that timeline, but it was like 6 months.
Mhm.
It wasn't like because I'm also realistic. Like, okay, I'm not going to see the results that I want in 6 months when I haven't been putting in like full time sort of effort. So a lot of it for me is that I've been really working on being extremely self aware the past few years. And that has
Mhm.
come from a lot of personal development, meditation, practicing saying no to things that, it made me really uncomfortable or even having uncomfortable conversations with people. Um, those are all like pieces of the business that I feel like you get as you go along. So, really, I don't know. I don't even know how to describe it. It's almost like a gut feeling when I'm like, okay, I need to make a shift. And a lot of times I feel that way when I'm feeling unhappy. Like I'm just naturally a happy person or a positive person. And when I'm catching myself losing sleep about something, or not wanting to show up for something that normally I was excited to do, I stop and ask myself like, okay, what is this? And I don't make myself give an answer right now, but I allow myself to think about it for a while. I'm not a big journaler. I definitely can be. I'm more journal. I'm in a coaching program, and sometimes to start like coaching calls, we'll journal stuff out, and I'll do it then, and I really like it then, but just on my own. I'm not disciplined enough to do it. It's not my thing. But sometimes I will about those things. Like I'm like, okay, I got to get to the bottom of this. Like I'm not going to be okay until I get to the bottom of this. And really just being open to whatever that answer is that comes to me and then figuring it out. So like for the example, when I said I decided I was going to stop building my network marketing business and I was like at the top and it seemed like a really crazy thing to be doing. I had a lot of conversations with my coach. So I'm a big fan, and I know you are as well, of always having a coach or a mentor, a small group that you can have these conversations with because most people in your life are not going to understand them. So I had a
Mhm.
lot of conversations with my coach, and I really respect her. And it's actually helped me a lot in my own coaching practice because she never told me the answer. Like, she never was like, I think you're going to leave. She let me work through all of that with her. And then one day I showed up on the call. And I still remember to this day, it was like in June. And I was like, okay, I decided that I'm not going to be building my network marketing business anymore. And she was like, oh my gosh. She's like, you have been coming to this decision for like 4 months. She's like, what was it? And I was like, I don't know. I've just been thinking about it. So lots of pieces to that, but building up that support system where you do have that support to talk through and walk through things. And again, for me, the majority of my decisions like that are not like it pops in my mind and I immediately do it. Like I give myself time to process and like what are all the what ifs, what are the pros, what are the cons. So maybe I'm a little bit of an overthinker in that way. But that self-awareness piece and really trusting your intuition and your gut can be a huge thing. And a lot of us, I don't think, do it enough.
Well, I'm in awe of your patience because I am the type of person who's like, I have to make a decision. I have to make it right now.
Hmm.
And that, like, giving yourself the space of, like, I have to make a decision, but I don't have to make it right now.
Yeah.
I'm going to give myself the time and the space to process and really feel into it and listen to
Yep.
my gut and listen to my intuition that, and in that time, knowing you, I'm sure you didn't stop taking action in your business. You
Correct.
kept taking action while
Yep.
you processed, while you worked. And so that way you
Hmm.
continued to plant seeds and maybe you would abandon that harvest, but you were still strengthening the muscles
Yep.
that would help you with the next thing.
Absolutely. And trying things different because there's sometimes too when we're feeling misaligned and it's just because we're doing something that everyone tells us we should be doing, but there's something else in our business that could be so much better. Maybe it's a social media platform you actually really hate, but everyone's telling you to be on it. Or maybe you're spreading yourself too thin on Pinterest and all the places. And, so also allowing yourself that time, like, okay, well, what could I pivot to see if if I did something just a little bit differently, maybe I would like my business or like this aspect of it a little bit more, and give it time. And then if you still really hate the thing, then it's probably you really you really hate the thing.
Yeah. Okay. I'm glad you said something about social media platforms because I want to get into that. And I know you coach to being in a place that you're not trying to be in 10,000 places at once and narrowing and getting consistent. But when it comes to like choosing a platform, this is so interesting because I just had this realization. Like, I personally hang out on Instagram. I like it. It's where my people are, it's where my friends are. I literally have a product that helps you, or an offer that helps you with your Instagram grid, the 9 grid offer. I have it done for you. I have templates, right? But I was thinking about my high ticket offers, which is retainers, where I like literally serve as someone's director of marketing and we implement for you, not just social media, but holistic marketing. The clients that I have in that capacity, I found on LinkedIn. And
Mm,
after I found them on LinkedIn, I kind of like haphazardly don't have a strategy for LinkedIn. Like, I'm in there
yeah.
with my client. Sometimes I'll post for myself, but I don't have a real strategy. And I had this light bulb moment of like, why am I not over there on LinkedIn
Hmm.
talking about my retainer services when like I literally found my client
Your
there?
best clients there. Yeah.
Yeah, but it goes back to that, what is everybody else doing?
Yep.
And because my friends and the people that I like to surround myself with are Instagram people, we
Yep.
all talk about Instagram. And so like
Yeah.
my gut is like, oh, well, you have to be over there. Well, maybe you don't,
Yep.
right?
Yep, absolutely. And I actually think LinkedIn is a super underutilized platform. I was doing a lot on it in the fall and I kind of slipped off a little bit because it's, first of all, it's so easy to repurpose. Once you
Mhm.
have a lot of your content can be repurposed pretty easily on LinkedIn, depending on what your industry is. But
Mhm.
the same way, like looking at my clients, where my clients have come from, to my knowledge, none of them have ever directly come from Instagram. And so that's actually why I stopped paying my social media manager for Instagram content, because I was like, why am I doing that? Now,
Mhm.
I do think it is important, at least for me and my brand, because I do, my coaches are on there. That's where I found them. You're on there. That's where I talk to you usually. And I have a certain set group of people that I talk to on my Instagram. So I don't want it to go away and I want it to be maintained. But I'm like, for me, some of my best clients have either come from Facebook groups, my podcast, YouTube. Which
Yeah.
is so funny because I put literally no thought into YouTube at all. So I'm like, okay, maybe I need to, yeah, again, maybe I need to shift a little bit and stop doing what everyone, says that you need to do and just play around with that. Because, what's the harm in doing that? Nothing.
Yeah. And giving it that window of time of like, okay, I'm
Yeah.
going to work on this for a while. I'm going to take a look and see what the data says. So I love that you brought up the idea or the conversation about that you stop paying your social media manager. And that this is
Mhm.
actually something that like I want to have conversations with my community about of when do you need a social media manager?
Mm.
When do you need a VA? When do you need a marketing strategist? Because all those things get muddled together. And I
Yeah.
love the lens that you used to make the decision to
Mhm.
step away from working with her of like, this is not giving me any ROI.
Yeah.
And talk to me, just kind of walk me through that process of like hiring a social media manager, how long you worked with her, and then when you decided that it was like time to take a
Yeah.
pause.
So I hired her probably around this time last year because she started in January. And now, granted, she worked, I think I had her for 3 or 4 months. So I wouldn't do it any shorter amount of time than that. But
Mhm.
3 or 4 months. And at the time, I didn't have my mastermind. The only product that I was monetizing was one on one coaching and my membership. And
Mhm.
she was phenomenal. Like, I still refer her out to all the people. I'm like, her content was amazing. You actually reached out to me because you said my content was so good. And I'm like, girl, it's not mine. It's my social media manager. She's great. And I still follow her. And it just, at the end of the day, what I was bringing in my business and what I was paying her, like percentage wise, it just didn't make sense financially.
Mhm.
And now, if I were at like my goal revenue in my business, I would absolutely be throwing money at her and being like, do my Instagram, do my LinkedIn, do my Facebook, do all of it. And I will just show up in stories or I'll just, do some reels or things like that. Um,
Mhm.
but again, that was part of me stepping into my shoes as like Lindsay as CEO, making the hard decisions. You have to
Mm,
decide, which investments, like you say, are actually a return on your investment right now and which are not. And truthfully, I like creating content. I really do.
mhm.
I love doing it and I have so much of it. When we were talking about, repurposing, I can easily repurpose. It's just it's not even that I didn't even want to. It was just the amount of hours in the day. I'm like, okay, well, if I'm spending an hour making my content, then I'm not working. Like I was like, okay, that's it for me working my business that day. And I'm like, okay, that's not
Mhm.
actually that's not actually true. Because I
Yeah.
know, I know those posts aren't actually bringing me clients. So that was
Yeah.
like a big,
When it comes to your time, if it's like, okay, in these 3 hours that I create content, I could serve two more clients.
yeah,
Okay, then maybe the time from anything like makes sense. But when it's like, okay, I have nothing, no content, and you like to make content, then maybe that's not the right thing to bring in. And so I
exactly.
love that you experimented with it. And I think
Mhm.
the other thing that I wanted to kind of touch on for anybody who's listening who has considered hiring a social media manager is that you have a podcast and a
Mhm.
long form content container that you are creating. So your
Yep.
social media manager had a wealth of information to
Yeah.
pull from and repurpose. And I bring this up because I had a client who I worked with for almost 9 months. And we started out doing long form content and social.
Mhm.
Great. We're building a great foundation. Well, then all of a sudden, client says, I need to cut the scope. We're going to cut the long form content. I
Oh,
just
no.
want you to do social media. And I was like,
Mhm.
maybe should do it the other way. But they
Yeah.
didn't want to hear that. They only
Yep.
wanted social media. And then 6 months later, they're like, this isn't really working. We're going to stop. And I'm like, I know it's not working because this is not the strategy I recommended.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
so understanding those things, and I think what you said too, knowing what your social media manager or your social media platform does for you today. What
Yep.
is its job? What do you want its job to be?
Yep.
And if it's like maintain a presence so that when people look me up, they know what I do, okay, great. If it's consistently and regularly nurture my audience, okay, now that's a different job. So we're going
Absolutely.
to handle that differently, right?
Yeah. And I was nurturing my audience some, but like you said, the importance level wasn't
Mhm.
there as much on Instagram for me. But I will say I learned a ton from her because we did like a strategy call at the beginning of every month. And one of my biggest things was I just wasn't selling either on
Mhm.
Instagram. Like I just wasn't. And so when we were setting up my posting schedule with her, she was like, okay, Thursdays is sales days. And I was like, what? She's like, Thursday, we're making a grid post and you will be selling one of your offers.
Mhm.
And it was so funny for me to see those and like people were liking and commenting. And I was like, because those were so uncomfortable for me to make. But after
Yes.
I got, and I'm like, well, it looks like I'm making it now. So I guess I can show up and sell too. So that was like a
Yes.
really, really good ROI for me in that place.
Yeah, and that's a mindset thing that sometimes it takes an outside person
Mhm.
looking in to like share that feedback with you because you're not seeing it on your own. But
Yeah.
then you can make that shift. And I think, one thing to even think about, you said you saw that people were commenting or they were liking. I will caveat with like, even if they're not, we
Yeah.
still need to make those posts because those posts, again, those posts have a different job. The job
Yeah.
of those posts is to let people know I am open for business, this is how you can work with me. And,
Right. Right.
you know,
Well, and it's the
yeah,
same
and
thing. It's so funny because I just told this to a client of mine. She's in a launch right now. And I was like, oh my gosh, I thought your launch was over because I haven't seen you post about it. She was like, what? I
mhm,
post about it all the time. And I'm like, no, girl. And I'm like scrolling. I'm like, you haven't posted about it in 12 Instagram posts. And she's like, what? I'm like, yes, but it's so much easier for someone from the outside to see that. And it goes back to that your 9 square grid. Like what is showing up for people when they very first land on your profile. And it's so
yeah,
interesting to see what we think we're putting out there versus what we know other people are going to be seeing when they come to our feed.
mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh. And anytime I have a client tell me like when we do a sales post, they're like, "Well, that didn't get any likes." Like, okay,
They're never
that
going to.
wasn't that wasn't the job. And I was actually just seeing this in some social media trends the other day that the platforms have evolved and changed so much over the years that nobody is seeing the engagement numbers that they saw a year ago or
Right.
2 years ago, because the platforms just continue to evolve. They get busier, they get more crowded. People's attention span consistently gets shorter and shorter and shorter. And
Yeah.
people, I think, are even kind of deciding that they're over it. I mean, I
Mhm.
know I've heard people talk about who, like you, use a lot of Facebook groups, that like Facebook groups have changed drastically
Yep.
over the
They
last
have.
few years.
Yeah, I know my engagement in my Facebook group has completely tanked. Um, for me, the biggest thing that I am able to actually nurture people that I know of is by hosting free events, like a free
Mhm.
workshop or something like that. Even, and I was talking to another client about this today, even just posting links for freebies now,
Mhm.
very rarely do people actually, download them and take you up on them. Like they need to have some other sort of way that they are being enticed or nurtured by you, just rather than downloading a free XYZ.
Yeah. Okay. I'm glad you said that, because collaborations and sharing those free resources.
Yeah.
So you're in the midst of planning a summit right now. As the airing of this podcast, it will be just about to actually happen.
Yeah.
So we'll have the links in the show notes for all of that. But talk to me about that whole idea of collaboration and supporting other people with sharing their free resources to grow their audiences, and what that's looked like for you, and how you kind of got the idea to pull a summit together.
Yeah. So this was actually on my bucket list to do last year. I don't know if you remember. I think I reached out to you about being a speaker last year too. And I had the form and for to people to apply and yada yada. And um, then once everyone started applying and getting in, and I was like, this is so much work. I have no idea what I'm doing. Like, this was stupid. I'm like, this. And at the time, again, going back to, is this directly going to get me income for my business? Is this one of my top priorities right now? I had to say the answer was no.
Hmm.
And so I pushed it off until I was much more ready to handle all of the pieces of it. And I also wanted to be a speaker in some other people's. I've been in a few other ones before, last year, the year before. Um, and I have been an attendee of several because I love summits myself. So that's how I knew, it's kind of like when I started making and hosting my own retreats. I had been to several retreats. I love retreats. I love learning from them. So I like to put on things for my clients and my audience that I love doing. So summits are one of the things that I love doing. Um, and so the other thing that gave me the confidence to do it is, I have my own podcast as well. So I love guest interviews. I love collaborating with the women. Every single person I've had on my show has been awesome. They share it with their audience and their audience grows because I'm giving them visibility with my audience, and then vice versa. There's always new people that come into my realm. And so I think summits in general are just a very smart visibility strategy for, whatever industry you're in. And they're not just business summits. Like there's a podcast I follow. I think it's called the Summit Host Hangout. I think it was on that one. Actually, I think it was a different one, but Summit Host Hangout is one that I also listened to. And she was sharing like there was a gardening summit and there's a teacher summit and there's summits for everything. So if you're listening to this, like find a summit that you can be a speaker in and just play around with it, see what happens, because they're not a lot of time. You usually pre-record. I've been on a couple that were live, which were kind of interesting. Everyone kind of does their own twist to it, which is awesome too. Like there's no like one size fits all. And yeah, I mean, the statistics that I've heard from them for the visibility that you get, like just the energy around a summit, I just really, really love. So I'm really looking forward to doing it. It is a lot of work though. I will have to say it is a lot of work. So we are recording this about, oh, wait, we're about 2.5 months out. And I thankfully have gotten the majority of info from my speakers already. So I made the deadline a month ago. And I bought some templates for my website. I'm hosting it all on Kajabi on my website and have been slowly working on getting all the things, put on there. But it is definitely something that I would not bite off into host wise coming right out of the gate if you are brand new. But on the other
Yeah.
hand, too, it doesn't have to be massive. Like
Mhm.
mine could have been in a lot smaller scale than I'm doing it. I just feel like I'm ready for handling something of this level. But I've been to summits before where there were 3 speakers instead of,
Mhm.
the 23 that are going to be at mine.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think it's helpful to understand what goes into it. And I love that you shared that, like, you tried to do this and then realized I don't have the bandwidth and
Yeah.
I'm going to put this on the shelf for the future. But also, even what you said about it didn't align with your immediate goals at the time.
Yeah.
And that's something that I'm working on with one of my mentors is like every single month we sit down and say, well, what are our plans for the month? And she always says, what's your number one goal? What's your number
Yeah.
one goal? And I'm like, sales, because I don't currently have a funnel that's bringing in the revenue to hit my goals every single month. So every single
Yeah.
month, the goal is sales. Now, eventually, once we get a couple more retainer clients under my, under contract, that income will be there. And then we can go back to, okay, planting seeds, visibility, or streamlining operations and making things smoother.
Mhm.
But you have to know what your immediate goals are so that you
Yeah.
can pour your energy into the right things, right?
Oh, for sure. And the other thing, and I'm so glad I didn't do this a year ago, was
Mm-hmm.
that I mean, I guess technically I did because I still had my membership because I'm getting rid of my membership at the end of 2023 because it just wasn't aligned anymore. It ran its course. It was wonderful when it lasted, but I'm like, it's done for now.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't have anywhere to put those people who were coming in to work with me. Like I had no way to scale myself at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So if I had 500 more people, 1,000 more people, like what would I do? And so for 2024, I have that business course. So I can funnel them into the business course and then
Yeah.
hopefully they will then go into my mastermind. And so I have those tiers. Whereas before, and I talk about this a lot with my clients, like, and my coaches say this to me a lot of times too, are your systems in place? Is your business set up so that if 1,000 people, like you went viral and 1,000 people found you on the internet tomorrow and wanted to work with you, do you have ways that you can do that? And the answer a year ago was no. Like I would, even if people were signing up for the membership, I was like adding them to the Facebook group and like my systems just were not there. And so that is something too that I've been gradually working on this year is making sure everything is automated, streamlined so that if people are like, yes, I want in, perfect. You click this link, it's on my website, everything is automated. I get a notification and we go from there. So I think that's another big thing is, are you actually telling the universe that you are ready and open for that
Mm-hmm.
level of success? Because there's so many times we're not. Like we want it, but actually we're not quite ready for it yet.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that's so good. Well, before we wrap up, and I've got a couple fun, like, get to know you questions that I actually have different ones since you've been on the podcast
Ooh,
previously. But before we
fun.
jump into those, tell us like what to expect from the summit as it's right around the corner and what people can take away from it if they attend.
Yeah, so I am so excited. I hope you will grab your free ticket. It is the Love Your Business Summit, and it is going to be over 3 days, February 14th through 16th. And then there's some extra fun VIP bonuses as well. So stay tuned for those. I'm still getting all those ironed out, but I have lots of fun ideas. And each day has a theme. So Wednesday's theme is mindset, Thursday is strategy day, and Friday is systems and scaling. So you'll get 24-hour access to all the videos. And then, if you would like the replays, you absolutely can grab those as well. And then I'm really excited. Thursday night, we are going to be doing a live breathwork facilitation at 7 p.m. Eastern time. So you'll be able to hop on, experience breathwork. And so my goal of the summit is that you will leave completely feeling rejuvenated because I know February can be like, you were all excited from January and you're going to hit the ground running. You have all these goals. And then mid-February, things can start to be like, okay, what am I doing again? So,
It's cold,
rejuvenate you. Yeah.
dark.
Yes, yes. It's snowy if you're in Ohio. Hopefully not. But yeah, so just leave rejuvenated with some new ideas that you've met some new wonderful women to help support you in your journey. And do really big things this year.
Yeah, I love that. And I love the facilitated breath work. Breath work is one of those things that, like, I've done a few sessions with different facilitators and, people that practice that. And I always finish and am so, like, shocked about how
Yeah.
much better I feel, right?
Yeah, and I've had some really cool stuff come to me too during breathwork, and I'm like, "Whoa, I
Yes.
had no idea that was on my mind." Yeah, so if you're
Yeah.
not familiar with breathwork, you definitely want to check that out.
Yeah, very cool. Okay, so couple just get to know you questions really quick. We love to talk about content And as much as I love business content, I always like to know, what show are you binging, or what's your go-to show
Ooh.
right now?
Oh my gosh, I just finished. Okay, well, I just finished Selling Sunset, the newest season. I'm obsessed with it. And I also just watched the first half of the last season of The Crown because I'm also obsessed with Princess Diana.
Yes.
So those are the ones I haven't started like a new one because I literally just finished those a couple nights ago. But
Yes.
both of those, while very different, were very good.
Yes. The Crown is so good. I just finished season 3 of The Morning Show. So
Oh,
freaking good. It is
I've never even heard
worth
of that.
It's on Apple TV, and it's
Okay.
Jennifer Aniston and Reese Witherspoon.
Uh-huh.
Um, and
Love them.
they're executive producers and stars of the show, and it's so
Ooh.
good. It's like
Okay. Okay. I'm gonna check that out.
worth the Apple TV subscription for sure.
Okay. Okay. Good to know.
Okay, so along with your bingeable show, what's your current go-to bingeable snack?
Ooh, bingeable snack. I really like Stacy's pita chips. I was just
Oh,
looking over there because I was literally just eating them before the show, but they're not sitting next to me. Yeah, I really love like pita chips. I'm not a big chip person in general.
mhm.
Um, but I don't know. I really love just like grabbing a handful of those and munching. Like they're just enough crunch that
You like
it
them
works.
plain, or do you dip them in something?
Plain.
That's so funny. I like pita
Yeah,
chips only if I'm dipping them in something. I don't like them.
really.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm too this sounds so awful, like so like first world. I feel like I'm too lazy to have like a dip and a chip. Like I'm like I just want something on the go, you know what I mean? Like I want a one-hand snack.
Yes, yes, that's funny. My son just came in. He went to the dollar store with his friend, and he came in with sour cream and cheddar ruffles. And I was like, "Oh my god, do not let me eat those because I will eat the whole bag."
Yeah.
They're
Oh, I
so
haven't had those in a long time, but those are good. That's a good choice.
yeah. All right. So along with your bingeable snack, what's your go-to adult beverage and go-to non-adult beverage right now?
Mm. Adult beverage. Well, for the holidays, my cousin just made what were they? Apple cider mimosas. Yeah, apple cider
Ooh,
mimosas. It was
fun.
really good. Yeah, so that's probably my new fave. Adults, non-adults. This is also a really lame answer. I apologize. Like an iced coffee. I really love the so we're recording this holiday season. So I really love the holiday drinks from Starbucks. I don't get them very often, but I do really love them.
Yes, the sugar cookie almond milk
Yes,
latte
that
is
one is my
delicious.
favorite. Yeah, that
Yeah.
one's my fave.
So good. Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, then last question, because I know you love to travel. I'd love to know an upcoming trip that you have on your calendar that you're looking forward to.
Oh my gosh. So I'm basically out of the country all summer. I have 3 abroad trips. So my first one is Greece and Italy. I'm taking students. So maybe my last student abroad trip, we'll see. And then my sister and I are going to Morocco, and then we're going to Thailand, which I've never been to Greece. I've never been to Morocco. I've never been to Thailand. So I am equally
Wow.
excited about all 3 of those. I can't pick one. But yeah, I'm pretty pumped. So I'll be in 3 continents this summer. So I'm pretty excited.
Yes. Oh my gosh. That's so fun. I love it. Well, Lindsay, thank you so, so much for being here. This was a lot of fun catching up. Tell our listeners if
Yeah.
they'd like to connect with you, where you hang out online, and where they can learn more.
Yeah. So thank you, Ruthie, so much. I really loved our conversation. And you can find me at lindsaydollinger.com, Lindsay Dollinger on Instagram, and then the link to sign up for the summit. You can find that over my website, or Ruthie will have that as well for you. And I hope to see you there.
Yes. Thanks so much for being here. This was a lot of fun.
Thanks, Ruthie.